Right, okay guys, welcome to a Friday Waffle. And yeah, this is a chunky jumper special one. This is an absolute fantastic jumper, love it to bits. So anyway, listen, I hope you're all doing okay in light of everything that's going on. I don't want to make this overly sort of depressing video, because I think there's been quite a lot of that from me over the last wee while. So I just want to give you, as you know me guys, if you're a regular to my channel, you'll know that I'm nothing if honest, and sometimes I can be too honest, I can be too open for my own good. You know, I've got myself into trouble a few times, I've had to take videos down because of my honesty. And that's the type of person I am in life, and it's sometimes good. I think honesty is a good trait, but sometimes it's not always the right thing to do. And like I said, I've been too honest with people over the years with different things, aspects of my life, and sometimes it can backfire. And you know, sometimes you're better to keep things, especially when you're putting out videos online. But I just want to give you a wee bit of background as to where I am at the moment. Not that, I mean, what I'm doing at the moment is completely unimportant and irrelevant in the scale of what's going on in life, but you know, if you watch my channel, I dare say you're going to be interested in what's been happening. As you're aware, or you might be aware, I was going through a real tough time in my job. I started a new job back in November, and it was I thought I took it on because the job I'd been in for a long time, and I wanted a change, and this opportunity came along, and I thought, you know, I weighed everything up and I decided to go for it. It's like anything in life that you do, we're all faced with, we all go along a path in life, and every now and again you'll come to a crossroads or a fork in the road, and you've got to decide, do I go down this path or do I go down that path? And sometimes you'll take the right decision, other times you're going to make a mistake, but you know, you don't know that until you go down. So I chose to start this new job, and I was quite excited about it. It was a big opportunity, it sounded great on paper, and unfortunately the job, I realised pretty quick in that I'd made a mistake, but at this point it was too late to kind of go back. You can't leave a job and then go back again. That door had already closed. So I thought, I've got to give it my best. So I did that, but just the job itself, the nature of the work was difficult. I was managing a group of people, which in itself was difficult. I mean, most of the guys that I had working for me were good. There was a couple of guys that gave me a lot of problems, and that culminated at the tail end of the start of this year in January. I had to let a couple of people go, and one of the guys got very nasty. He was basically threatening me through text messages. He was posting pictures of me and my daughter, because you know, my profile picture was me and my daughter, posting pictures of me on various Facebook pages, slandering my name, slandering the company, slandering my name. And that was the reason I realised I had to come off Facebook, because I couldn't let that continue. Now, I was very disappointed with Facebook's response to me, you know, basically saying to them, look, this guy is bad mouthing me in a very bad light, unfairly. Can you take it down, please? And they basically, I think it's a bot, actually. I don't think Facebook complaints are actually responded to by human beings. I think it's a computer that does it. And it came back and said that they didn't see that this person was doing any wrong. But when the text messages, the person was telling me that he knew where I stayed, and he was telling some of the guys that he knew what I was wearing on a particular day. Now that was very, very concerning, because obviously I've got my daughter living with me, you know. So I went to the police, and to be perfectly blunt, the police were completely hopeless. Absolutely, they weren't. I wouldn't say they're hopeless. They weren't remotely interested. They essentially told me that the only thing they could not take any action because there was no threat made. You know, they said the way this person had put the texts together, there was not a direct threat, and because of that, they were unable to take any action. I showed them the posts on Facebook, and they basically said you need to take that up with Facebook. And the bottom line is, the only way they would take any action would be if there was a direct threat made to me, or something actually happened. Now, given my office, I was in there myself the whole time. Given that I was in there myself, there was nothing to stop somebody coming in. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that the guy was capable of that. I don't think he was. But I couldn't take any chances. So that's the reason I had to come off Facebook. So I had all that to deal with sort of at the start of the year. And then just the actual business itself wasn't going well. And then, of course, the coronavirus kicked in, which meant that half my guys were off, and I was just getting constant complaints, non-stop hassle. Really, just, you know, I got to the point I thought I cannot physically cope with this job now, because I've been asked to run a business with a tiny number of people, and in my opinion, our business, or the business that I work for, was not geared up. It didn't have enough people, and because I had basically lost 2/3 of my staff due to the coronavirus, they were self-isolating. The job literally just went from bad to worse, and I was having to fight daily with myself to not just hand my notice in, because it was really getting to me. The pressure was just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, fast forward a couple of weeks, we were, the company, the contract that we were working on up in Scotland was it was due to end on the 31st of March, and my guys and myself had been asking my boss, you know, are we going to get the new contract? Are we going to get it? And I kept asking the question, and I kept getting told, I don't see any reason why not, you know, they like us, blah 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 blah. But there was just certain things going on, and I thought, you know, I don't think this is going to go the way we hope it's going to go. And then on Tuesday this week, I found out, my boss came up and I found out that the business is now closed up in Scotland, and myself and my guys are now jobless. So yeah, that's where we are. I'm not you know, the funny thing is, with everything that's going on that's going on in the world at the moment. I mean, it's ironic that the world is going through the biggest crisis of its life at the moment. That in itself has not, I don't mean that it's not been a concern of mine, that's the wrong thing to say. I have had so much other stuff going on in my life that the coronavirus hasn't really, I've not even given it any thought, because I've just had so much other stuff going on. But the fact that I'm now technically unemployed, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, I'm going to be, money is always a concern. I've got a mortgage to pay, you know, like everybody else. But I'm a great believer in there are other opportunities out there. I mean, I'm a clever person, you know, I don't mind admitting that. I know I'm good at my job, maybe not the job that I had, but I know that I'm a worthwhile employee for somebody, and I know it's only a matter of time before I do get another job. So I am not too concerned, and if I'm being honest, what's happened in the last sort of few days for me has it's actually been a good thing. I mean, it's been difficult for me because obviously what's happened, my guys are angry with what's happened, quite rightly so. They believe that I knew what was happening, what was going to happen, and that is not the case. I did not know. I mean, we all had our own opinions about the way things were going to go, but I was not told until this week. So, you know, and that for me has been difficult because, you know, when you're getting people accusing you of being a liar and you'd let them down, etc. I know what these guys are going through because they're in the same boat as myself. They're out of a job. They've got no income. Who's going to employ anybody at the moment? I mean, employers are not recruiting at the moment. So it's going to be difficult for these guys as well. But for me, it's, if I'm being honest, it's probably a relief. It's, you know, it's one of these things you'd never want to be unemployed, but when you're in a job where you just, you know, at night time I was going to my bed and I was quite literally just dreading the alarm clock going off in the morning because I knew I was going back to it. I was going back into this situation that I was finding it increasingly difficult to actually cope with. And you know, I would just will the clock to get to 5 o'clock so I could finish and go home. And I've never felt like that. I've never ever felt like that. And when you're in that situation, I think it's made worse for me because I do live in Moan. So I was coming home and I didn't have anybody to talk to. You know, I've got friends, etc. I've got you guys. I've got my girlfriend. But ultimately, you feel pretty isolated, and it's not a nice place to be. And like I said, I was having to fight with myself. I mean, I had a few arguments with my girlfriend about, you know, I would tell her I'm just going to hand my notice in and walk because I can't put up with this anymore. And she's like, don't be so stupid. What are you going to do if you leave your job? You're not going to be entitled to any benefits or anything. And you know, and she was talking sense. But when you're in that position, you just feel like the walls are closing in on you. You feel like you've got nowhere to turn. And so for the last few months, I've just had to kind of get out of bed, go to work, and just try and get through each day. Try and get to 5 o'clock every day. So like I says, I'm actually short of this being a depressing video. I know it probably sounds like it, and I've got my Commodore 64 colour jumper on. I've just noticed it's beige brown, or what's it, bread bin brown. Short of this being instead of this being a depressing video, for me it's actually a happy video because it means that I'm out of this situation and I'm looking forward to the future. Yeah, obviously where we are at the moment with the virus, etc., it's a horrible place to be in just now, but I know that I will come out the other end. You know, as somebody on YouTube said to me about the dark times, the bad times are always temporary. They're always temporary, and it's the same for everybody at the moment that's going through a lot of pain and, you know, anguish and worry about their health, about their friends and family's health, about money, about jobs, about what we're going to do, even the self-isolation, which I've not really been able to do because I've been expected to go to work, which was another thing. I mean, that was difficult. You know, my guys felt they shouldn't be out, and personally I didn't think we should be out either, but that's another story. But this is temporary. it's a blip on what's going to, in the scale of what's going on in life. It's going to be, we are all going to get through this. How long that dark tunnel is going to be, I don't know, but we are going to get through it. And I know for me personally, I will get, I'll get another job, and I'm quite sure that in 6 months' time, I'll be in a much better place. But as I says, I'm actually happy with what's happened to me, because although I've got to get a job, because I found out that my mortgage protection does not cover redundancy. Can't believe it. But I know you can take mortgage breaks and that kind of thing, so I'll need to look into that. And I've got to get myself a car as well, because I've got a company car and that goes back. That'll be going back probably next week. So yeah. But anyway, right, listen, I've prattled on for 15 minutes just talking misery, although it is, for me it's actually a positive thing. I just thought, right, I need to just kind of get back to what I do. You watch my channel to listen to retro stuff, so I'm going to be like a broken record. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about how I got into computer games, what started it for me. So let me turn the clock way back. The first time I ever became aware of a video game, it would be, I'm trying to think what year, 1978 possibly. It was my family and I my mum and dad used to take us to the airport now and again to see planes land. Yes, my dad bought a radio which you could tune in and you could basically hear the pilots talking. And so we would go through to Turnhouse Airport, which that was before Edinburgh Airport opened, and we would go up to the sort of the viewing area, and you could watch these planes land. And that's what we used to do. That was a night out. We would go and watch planes land. Sounds ludicrous now, but that was the way that was the way we rocked or rolled in the 70s. So myself, my two sisters, or maybe no, my sister Karen was married, so it would have been me, my sister Pamela, and my mum and dad. We went through to Turnhouse Airport, and we were walking through the airport to go up to the viewing area to watch the planes land, and I saw this box machine thing with like what looked like a TV, and as I walked past it, I kind of stopped and went up and had a look at it, and it was a Pong machine, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what it was, other than I could see these paddles. And I think my mum and dad, they kept walking. He says, "Look, come on, hurry up, Alan." So I walked away from it, and I never really gave it any thought. Didn't think about it. Then, let me think. I think my next awareness of video games would probably have been I was going to the sports centre in Livingston. I had taken up judo, and I'd only been going a few weeks. I only went for a couple of months and gave it up. But I went up to the sports centre. You could play five-a-side football, badminton, table tennis, squash. They didn't have a swimming pool or anything, and they had a large hall where they could play like five-a-side football and that kind of thing. And as I went in to get changed, there was again one of these big boxes away in the far corner. Just as you went in the door on the right hand side, there was this thing. And what got me, interested was the fact that there was a lot of people huddled around it. So I went up, and I'm still small. I'm only 5'7". I pushed my way in, and there was this TV screen, and there was like controls on the front of it. There was like what I later found out to be a joystick, or it might actually been buttons. Yes, I think it was buttons left and right and fire. And it turned out to be, it was Space Invaders. Now again, this was the first time I'd ever set I am Space Invaders. And what drew me in was the ominous doot, 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 doot. That real bassy, ominous impending doom noise. And you know what I couldn't get my head around was that there was a person like controlling part of this display. He was controlling this thing in the bottom, and he was like firing what looked like bullets to kill these like space invaders. And I was utterly intrigued, and I just, I didn't have any money to play the damn thing. And then over the next coming weeks, when I was going up to judo, I would have like 10 pence or 20 pence, and I would have a shot, and I'd maybe last, I would never, I don't think I would ever have cleared a single sheet, but I would last maybe 30 seconds, a minute if I was lucky. But it was just, that was it. I was hooked. This was a video game, and the fact that I could interact with what was on the screen was just mind blowing. So then, fast forward a few months, that was my only connection with video games, was going to the sports centre and seeing this Space Invaders machine. Then, a few months later, I can't remember the exact timeline, it was such a long time ago, adverts started to appear for this thing called the Atari 2600. It was a box that you could buy, and you could play Space Invaders at home. And oh my goodness, I can't even begin to explain just how wonderful to have that would have been. It was, I think it was £99.99 in the UK. And I mean, I knew that my mum and dad were never going to be able to buy me one. I knew they would not have bought me one. And I asked, I said, oh, I would love one of these. But, it was the 70s, and they says, we can't afford that. And that was the end of it. There was no point of harbouring the issue, or harbouring, keep going on and on about it, because I wasn't going to get it. It was simple as that. They couldn't afford it, and that was the end of it. So I quite literally used to just drool at the prospect of, one day would I ever get to own one of these. And as it turns out, it would be probably 30 years later before I got to own an Atari 2600. And the only way I got to play these video games was, you'd go up to the shops, and the big high street, your Woolco, Woolworths, and all, John Main, or not John Mains's, they didn't do video games at that point, but some of your big supermarkets, big superstores, whatever you want to call them, they were selling the Atari 2600, and I think they also had the Philips video pack, which I think was also known as the Magnavox Odyssey. And I think the ColecoVision appeared, and probably the Vectrex. So these systems appeared in stores, and I knew, my income was zero. I think I got 50 pence a week pocket money. So I had no way, I would be, I don't know what age I'd be. I would have been 12 or something, 12, 13 years old. I had no way of earning any sort of income. So I knew that I was never ever going to get to own one of these. But I would go up there, and like every other kid, I would stand and watch people playing it, and I would maybe get a quick go. But you were limited. The assistants would come and tell you, right, come on, you can have one shot, then you need to go let somebody else have a shot. So that was my only exposure. And then I think obviously more arcade games started to appear, but again, living in central Scotland, I never got, there was no arcades, not at that time. When I was 13, 14, I didn't get to go to arcades. The only time I got to play a video game would be when my mum and dad took us on holiday. Now, most of our holidays were, we would go to, where did we go? We would go down to Essex camping, and we would stop on the motorway, and they would have like the service station, and they would have maybe Space Invaders, a couple of the early games, Golf possibly, I can't remember, Pong, Breakout maybe, and they also had that, what was it called, they had the Atari Basketball, and they had Sprint, which was the black and white one. So I would get to play, my mum and dad would maybe give me 20 pence, and I would get a couple of shots, and that was it. That was I had maybe 2 shots a year. Then there used to be a fairground which would come to Livingston once a year, and the thing that appealed to me wasn't the actual fairground rides, it was the fact that they had some of these arcade machines. So they had Space Invaders, like I said, they had Sprint, they had some of the real early video games, and me and my mates, we were addicted to them. We'd just stand around and look at them, and once you'd spent your 50 pence that you had, you would spend half an hour looking on the ground to see if you could find anybody, maybe to find money that somebody had dropped, or if you're lucky, somebody maybe there'd be like 10 pence in the sort of reject coin tray, and you get a free game. But that was it, So for probably about 78 to about 82, that was my exposure to video games, was the occasional shot of an arcade game. But I could count in one hand the number of goes I actually had off a video game, because they were just, that was it. The one time where I saw more arcade games was my auntie used to live in California in the USA, and my mum and dad, we went out there. They'd been saving for a long time. We went out there to stay with her for, I think it was 3 weeks or something. It was 1982, I would be 15, and we went to, where did we go to? 1982 was the real boom period for video games, they were everywhere, and going across to America, wow, it was incredible seeing all these video games anywhere you went, shops, gas stations, to use the American term, they were everywhere. And this was just like incredible, it really was. But the one time that I got to really have a good go of them was my mum and dad. We went to Reno, which is it's like Las Vegas in miniature. It's tacky as hell. It's full of casinos, etc. But they had arcade games were all over the place. So my mum and dad, they agreed that they would give me some money to play these. So it was like $0.25 for a game. And I remember being in this, I don't know whether it was a casino or something, and I was just walking about. Now the games that I remember playing, I played Berserk. I think I had a couple of games of Berserk, and I died within seconds. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, obviously. Galaxian, I remember playing Galaxian. In fact, I remember when we got to Heathrow Airport before we flew to America for the holiday. I remember seeing Galaxian, and I got a couple of goes of that. And Galaxian to me it's the one machine that really just, when I think of arcade games, I think of Galaxian, because it had these beautiful glowing coloured visuals, the darkness of space with the little lights blinking away, and you just had the howling sound effects from Galaxian. It was mesmerising. And so anyway, yeah, getting back to this holiday I was in this arcade, and I was walking about playing all these games, and I remember watching, there was a guy basically fixing what was Rally X, and he turned round and he said hello to me, and he said, "Oh, do you want a couple of games?" And I went, "Oh yes, please." So I think he put like 5 credits on the game for me, which was really nice of him. And that was the most sort of video games that I got to play in my life. I played them for quite a lot. That was the one and only time, but that was the biggest exposure I really had. And that's when I knew that this thing was it was growing arms and legs, the arcade scene, the video games, they were everywhere. It was a lovely time to be in America. So we came home, and really nothing had changed. Like most kids in the UK, I had Astro Wars, I had various, these little LED, they weren't LED, they weren't LCD, they weren't LED, I can't remember what they were called, there's a name for them. But they were, your little handheld games, and these were the best that we were going to get. we weren't ever going to own an arcade game. We were never going to own a machine to play these games. So these handhelds was the best that we were going to get. But even stuff like Astro Wars, they were very limiting. They really were. And even although that was all I could play, it was dull. It was dull. One thing I forgot to mention was my granny had bought a Binatone TV game. It's one of these TV systems. It had like 5 games. It had squash practice, football, which basically had 2 bats, and you could only play that against somebody else, and there was pong, tennis, and that was basically it. But even then, although that was all I had, it was boring. I mean, you really needed somebody else to play it with. Playing pong on your own it was dull, and I ended up spending more time. I actually figured out that if I switched the Binatone on and off really quickly, it would corrupt, and what would happen is you would get what looked like a scrolling road on the screen, and I remember just thinking, this is awesome, this could be a driving game, and I was just imagining that this was actually a game, and it's sad. And I've just thought of something as well. I remember getting a felt tip pen and actually drawing, this is true, drawing Space Invaders on the TV screen and pretending that I could play it. That's mental. Yeah, I remember drawing the Space Invaders, and I drew the little bases along the bottom and pretending that I could actually play this. That was the closest I was going to come to actually getting to play it. So that was it. I had to make do with LCD games, but they were very, very limited, and they were limited as hell, and you just got bored of them. So that was it. Then things changed. I remember at school, the first time I became aware of a computer was my modern studies class, and my teacher brought out this. He said, "Oh, I've got something to show you. This is called a computer," and he brought out this little sort of black box, tiny little black box, which turned out to be a ZX81. And he loaded this, I was going to say game, he loaded this program, and you had to, it would I can't remember exactly what would happen, it was like a word guessing game or something. There was no graphics to speak of, and we all got to have one go of this, and I couldn't say I was particularly impressed with it. I just thought, oh right, okay, this is quite a strange thing. It wasn't playing any games as such, it was a word game, but that was it, and I didn't really think any more about it. Then I started, I took O-grade computer studies, and we got to, no in fact no, I tell a lie, in geography, one of my geography teachers, who in hindsight I realised he was a complete arse, he was a horrible guy, he was a bully, he really was, he was a horrendous person, but he had an Apple, which it was an Apple II, and he let us play some of these some games. I think we played Lemonade Stand, which you've probably seen. You basically have to make lemonade, and it gives you a prediction of the weather, and you've got to work out how many glasses of lemonade you're going to make, and how much sugar you're going to put in it, and how much advertising you're going to take out. So we got to use Apple II, so that was kind of it. Then where things really changed for me, in fact I completely forgot to mention, before that my friend Nick came up to my house one day, and he had this big box which turned out to be an Atari 2600. Now this was the first time I had ever seen it in the flesh. Well, I tell a lie, I'd obviously seen it in the shops. So we unpacked it, and you had Pac-Man and Combat, and that was the only 2 games that you had, and we spent the whole day. You need to remember, this was at the point where every family, or most families including my own, we only had one television, that was it. So one TV had to be shared amongst everybody, not like nowadays where households have 10 televisions or 5 TVs, whatever. So I think it was the summer holidays actually, so fortunately my dad was at work, my mum was at work, So Nick and I were able to play this Atari for the whole day. Then Nick said to me, "Oh, I'll come back tomorrow," and he said, and he went to unpack it, and I says, "Why don't you just leave it here, Nick, and then that'll save you taking it home." So he very kindly agreed to leave me with this Atari 2600. So needless to say, I played it constantly until my mum and dad came home from work, and they're like, "Right, you need to get that switched off. I want to watch Nationwide." So the Atari was switched off, and then the following day Nick came back and we played it again non-stop, and then eventually Nick said, like, "I need to go," and he took it with him, and that was it. I never got to see it again. But anyway, fast forward to, it would be mid 1983. At that point I was still having to make do with my little handheld games. And I got a part-time job working in Woolco. Now Woolco was one of these, it was Woolworths, but it was like a superstore version. It was an amazing shop because they literally sold everything. They did. They sold food, they sold clothes, they sold jewellery, they sold sports equipment, they sold car equipment, they sold camping equipment, they sold furniture, they sold TVs, they sold perfume, they had a cafe, they even sold mopeds. I mean, we used to go down in the basement and drive these mopeds about. It was fantastic. So I got a job. It was my dad's mate's wife was one of the managers, so she got me a job. I was actually 15. I started in September 1983. I was only 15 years old, and then my birthday was like a month later. So I started working, and at that point I had an income. I was getting like about £12 a week, I think it was. I was still at school at this point, but I was working 5 till 8 Thursday, 5 till 8 Friday, and I would work like 4 hours on a Saturday. So I was doing about 10 hours a week. I think I was getting, it was about £2.50 an hour or something I was earning. It was ridiculous. Or was it even? It might have not been as much as that. £1.75 rings in my head. Don't know. But I was getting about £12 in cash. And obviously I got to know some people, and one of these guys was a guy called Brian, and he was working. I was collecting shopping trolleys. That was my job, gathering shopping trolleys, going outside into car parks, picking up the shopping trolleys. And Brian was doing the same thing, and I got talking to him, and it turns out he had a computer. So I looked into it, and I realised that because I was 16, I was now legally entitled, or I was now legally able to take. In fact, no, you know what? My mum, I tell a lie. We took it out. It was hire purchase, and it was in my mum's name. But I had to go up every week and pay so much towards it. So my mum, we went up, we got this computer, we got the Commodore 64. You know what, I've completely forgotten. Maybe a few months beforehand, my mum and dad caved in. They said I could have a computer, and I knew I wanted the Commodore 64, but I knew there was no way they were going to buy that. So I asked them if they'd buy me the Spectrum. And they went away to Comet. I don't know why I didn't go with them, but they went to Comet and they came back with the Texas TI 1994A, and I only had the one game for it. So even though I had a computer, it was null and void. I couldn't do anything with it at all. So anyway, getting back to I bought a C64 on hire purchase. I think it was about £15 a month I was paying. So every month I'd go in and pay it. So anyway, I got in sort of cahoots with Brian. It turns out that he had a C64, and he told me that he had all these games, and I'm like, how can you have all these games? And it turns out that he was copying them. Now what I'd forgot to say was, when I got my C64, I took it home. I bought 2 games with it. I bought Crazy Kong by Interceptor Software and Frogger 64, also by Interceptor Software. And I got home, and my mum very kindly let me plug it into the TV upstairs, which was a colour TV. We had a black and white portable, which was, I think it was a Bush, I remember. And that was, my mum and dad let me have the black and white TV in my bedroom. But when I got home, I said to my mum, look, can I plug it into this just now? I want to see what it looks like in colour. So she agreed to do that, so I loaded up Crazy Kong, and to say I was disappointed is an understatement. I mean, it's an absolutely woeful game. It's an atrocious game. It really is. Even though it was the only game I had, it was bloody awful. It was nigh on impossible to play, and I felt utterly crushed that I had just got this computer and the only game, or the only one of two games that I had for it was just garbage, absolute garbage. Fortunately, Frogger64 turned out to be actually a very, very capable game of what I then went on to find out was Frogger. It was actually... So yeah, these two games were just awful, absolutely awful. Or not, sorry, I tell a lie, the Frogger wasn't awful. Frogger was actually a good game, but Crazy Kong was dreadful. And like I say, because of my limited income, I had to pay towards my C64, and you know, whatever I had left, I could try and buy a game. I mean, I did buy a few other games. A Brasco Golf I bought. Now, you need to remember, at this point, the places like John Menzies, WH Smith, Boots, they did not stock software. You know, there was no software. I mean, buying software was difficult. Fortunately for me, I should say, and I've completely forgotten. As I'm talking, I'm remembering things. One thing that I completely forgot to mention, in the early 80s when computers first became a thing, there was a computer shop in Livingston. It was owned by a guy called Ray Agostini, he was an Italian guy, and he primarily stocked Atari stuff. And you know, we would go in there on a Saturday morning and we would literally spend the whole day just looking at the computers. You had quite a few Atari 800s, you had an Atari 400, and running on them were things like Summer Games, Bruce Lee, Boulder Dash, Blue Max, all the real classic sort of US Gold, or not, sorry, US Gold, it wasn't US Gold at that point, it was American software, just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, that just kind of, you know, that just fueled my desire to get a computer all the more. So anyway, fast forward back to my C64. So I had the C64, and then like I says, I met Brian in Rulco, and he said to me, look, yeah, I've got all these games, so you can come up and I'll give you a copy of them. So, you know, I got in cahoots with Brian, and, you know, I started to pirate games, and eventually I paid off my C64 and I was able to start buying games, you know, and I mean every weekend I would get Zap. When Zap came out in 1985, I mean before that it was C and VG, but when Zap came out in I think it was May 1985, I would eagerly read it from cover to cover, you know, oh, what game am I going to buy? And you know, I would go up to Ray's computer shop. You know, I bought Beachhead. Although saying that, Beachhead that came out before that. I remember seeing Beachhead, looking at the back of the covers, and then he did load it for me, and I was just blown away. I was blown away, just with the graphics and the sound. You know, just incredible. But yeah, I started getting more money, and I was able to start buying games every Saturday. As soon as I finished, Ray's shop used to close at 5:30, and I finished work at 5, so I would always want to try and get out as sharp as I could, jump on my little 50cc moped, and I would dash up to Ray's. Now sometimes Ray's shop would shut, I would get there at 20 past and he'd be closed, and I was absolutely gutted because it meant he wouldn't open on a Sunday. So it meant I had to wait until the Monday, and I had school before I could get to play any game. So it was always a mad rush, and it was wonderful when I got to Ray's and I'd buy a game, and he would be saying to me like, "Come on, the shop's closing in 5 minutes." So yeah, it was real happy days, and obviously that led on to me eventually getting an Atari ST, getting a Commodore Amiga, getting a PC, and then fast forward 30 odd years, I've now got every system under the sun. I thankfully now own an Atari 2600, and the rest, as I say, is history. So yeah, anyway, listen guys, I've prattled on quite long enough. I'm going to get going. So, yeah, I hope you all have a nice weekend, guys. And I'll catch up soon. And as always, thanks very much for watching.